You're watching Sleep Culture. Chapter 11. Data Ghosts. What happens to your online history when you die? What happens to your social media accounts, your company website, all of your emails, the services you've subscribed to, your Spotify playlists, your Netflix queue, all of the data you've spent your entire life collecting? Where does it go? What does it become? In the past, death was a clear boundary. Your body expired, your possessions were inherited, and your legacy was determined by those who remembered you. But now, the boundary between life and death has been blurred by the internet. Your digital self, the accumulated mass of your messages, photos, purchases, searches, and preferences, does not die with you. Instead, it lingers, scattered across countless servers, a fragmented yet persistent ghost. The term data ghosts was coined by researcher Viktor Mayer-Schönberger, a professor at the University of Oxford, who extensively explores themes related to digital memory and the persistence of data. In his 2009 book, Delete: The Virtue of Forgetting in the Digital Age, he uses the term to describe the lingering digital presence of individuals long after they have passed away. These ghosts, composed of emails, social media accounts, cloud backups, and AI-interpreted behaviors, form a shadow existence that can persist indefinitely. What was once merely a collection of forgotten files can now become an interactive entity capable of engagement long after death. For some, this new reality of the digital age is a comfort. Families can revisit old messages, hear the voice of a lost loved one, or scroll through years of social media posts the way one might have revisited a shoebox of old Polaroids. But as artificial intelligence advances, the persistence of digital selves is taking a new turn. Increasingly, our online ghosts are not just passive remnants, but interactive entities, slowly being reanimated through machine learning. Such is the case of Roman Mazurenko. A charismatic entrepreneur, Roman passed away suddenly in a traffic accident in Moscow. His close friend Eugenia Koida, co-founder of an AI startup, decided she wasn't ready to let him go. She gathered thousands of their text messages and fed them into an AI model, creating a chatbot that could mimic Roman's speech, his humor, and his way of thinking. The result was uncanny. Friends and family could continue talking to Roman, asking him questions and reminiscing. It was comforting to some, disturbing to others. But it raised a question we are only beginning to grapple with. If the dead can still respond, are they really gone? Imagine, you've just died. Your phone still rings. Your emails keep arriving. Your voice lingers on voicemail messages, and your face exists in the endless archives of the internet. Friends still tag you in photos. Family members scroll through your messages, rereading old conversations. You exist in a way that no generation before ever has. But is this what you wanted? This is not just an anecdotal oddity. It is a reflection of human nature, our resistance to loss, our need to hold on to the past, and our deep desire to cheat death in any way possible. The digital afterlife is the latest iteration of a centuries-long struggle to preserve identity beyond the grave. Long before artificial intelligence, we had other methods: embalming the dead, creating death masks, taking post-mortem photographs. We built pyramids, mausoleums, and family crypts to keep our lost loved ones close. Now, in the 21st century, the method of choice is data. What starts as a form of digital memorialization can evolve into something more unsettling. A father who has passed away might continue texting his children. A famous influencer's hologram might keep generating content posthumously. A CEO's chatbot might negotiate business deals from beyond the grave. But if AI can convincingly emulate the dead, where do we draw the line between person and program? At the core of this shift is the sheer scale of unclaimed digital data. Google currently holds over 1.5 billion active Gmail accounts, many of which belong to users who have long since died. Facebook, now home to nearly 3 billion profiles, is on track to have more deceased users than living ones within the next few decades. Eventually, the number of dead social media profiles may outnumber the currently living population of the planet, turning the digital world into a vast, ever-growing mausoleum of human thoughts, memories, and voices. Vast archives of unclaimed blogs, Flickr photo repositories, abandoned YouTube channels, and expired domain names litter the internet like digital tombstones. Some of these dormant accounts become targets for hackers, repurposed for scams, misinformation, or even identity theft. Others remain frozen, forgotten snapshots of lives that once were, a vast sea of digital ephemera floating in cyberspace. As technology continues advancing, new methods of digital resurrection will arise. AI-generated holograms of deceased figures are already being tested for entertainment and education. Some researchers are working on neural implants that could capture brain activity in real time, creating an instantaneous backup of human consciousness. AI-driven chatbots, such as those developed by companies like Replika and Hereafter AI, are already creating interactive digital replicas of living and deceased individuals. If a child is born today, they will likely be able to live their entire lives with a full-scale backup of all the public activities they have ever participated in. Futurist and Google engineer Ray Kurzweil has long predicted that by the 2040s, humans will be able to transfer their minds into digital systems, achieving a form of functional immortality. He argues that as computing power grows exponentially, whole brain emulation will transition from theory to reality, forcing society to reconsider the fundamental definitions of life and death. Susan Schneider, a prominent philosopher and cognitive scientist known for her work in philosophy of mind and artificial intelligence, has critically examined the concept of mind uploading and digital immortality. In her work, she contends that while consciousness may have a computational basis, the process of uploading one's mind would likely result in a mere copy of the original consciousness, rather than a continuation of the self. Schneider argues that such an upload would not transfer one's actual consciousness, but instead create a digital duplicate, leaving the original person's consciousness behind. This is no longer just a question of remembrance or legacy. It is a transformation of what it means to exist at all. When the boundary between life and death dissolves into an endless stream of data, do we become more than memory? Or are we simply echoes, reflections of ourselves trapped in a machine, forever responding but never truly present? As technology advances, we are forced to ask, are data ghosts the future of humanity, or are they the beginning of something else entirely? While some embrace digital immortality as a comfort, others are beginning to see its unintended consequences. The ability to recreate a person's voice, text patterns, and decision-making processes raises deep ethical and security concerns. If a person can continue speaking after death through AI, what happens when that ability is misused? What does the ownership of an identity amount to? If deepfake technology is already pervasive enough to be scandalizing Hollywood and disrupting high school campuses, what does it mean to be able to emulate someone's entire person and use it to create an interactive surrogate? One of the darker realities of data ghosts is their potential for exploitation. Scammers have already begun using AI-generated voice technology to impersonate the living for fraud, and the same tactics could be applied to the dead. Imagine receiving a call from a long-lost relative, only to realize too late that it's an AI-generated imitation designed to deceive you. As AI-generated deepfakes become more advanced, the potential for manipulating history, relationships, and even financial transactions grows exponentially. Beyond the emotional implications, ownership is another pressing concern. When a person dies, their physical estate is divided among their heirs. But what happens to their digital estate? If a company holds thousands of hours of a person's voice recordings, chat logs, and video footage, should they have the right to monetize that data? The growing trend of AI-generated celebrity endorsements already raises these questions. How long before corporations begin resurrecting the dead for profit? Consider the case of Anthony Bourdain, the late chef, author, and television host, whose AI-generated voice was used in a documentary without his explicit consent, sparking widespread debate about the ethical implications of posthumous digital recreation. Similarly, the estate of Robin Williams has strictly prohibited AI reproductions of his voice and likeness, fearing exploitation. Carrie Fisher was digitally recreated for Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, a decision that divided fans and critics over whether it honored or commercialized her legacy. More recently, AI technology has been used to generate new music from deceased artists, such as a simulated performance by the Beatles, using AI-enhanced vocals from old recordings. These cases highlight the rapidly evolving debate around digital afterlife rights, an issue that has moved from the realm of speculation into urgent legal and ethical discourse. Who owns a person's identity after they die? Should families, estates, or corporations have the final say in how a person's voice, likeness, and creative work are used? Some argue that AI remixes allow artists and public figures to have a continued presence, while others warn that such practices risk reducing legacies to mere intellectual property. As AI becomes more sophisticated, legal frameworks must evolve to determine whether a digital entity is merely an imitation or an extension of the person themselves. If this trend continues, we may soon need legally binding digital inheritance laws, determining not just who controls digital identities, but whether AI versions of the deceased should even exist at all. Some families may fight to protect the memory of a loved one, while corporations argue for control over valuable data assets. Laws have yet to catch up to this new reality, leaving the fate of data ghosts in murky legal territory. Beyond corporate interests, there is also a growing cultural question. What does it mean to live in a society filled with digital echoes of the dead? If AI versions of lost loved ones remain accessible indefinitely, how does that shape the way we grieve? Do we ever truly let go, or do we become emotionally dependent on artificial versions of those we have lost? A future where data ghosts are seamlessly integrated into daily life is not far-fetched. Imagine walking through a cemetery where augmented reality headstones display AI-generated holograms of the deceased, capable of telling their life stories and engaging in conversation. Or picture a world where virtual reality spaces are populated by AI versions of history's greatest thinkers, allowing scholars to converse with them as though they were still alive. Some researchers believe this will be a revolution, akin to how recorded sound and video changed storytelling and education. Others fear that an AI-powered afterlife will blur the line between authentic memory and artificial preservation, creating a world where no one is ever truly gone, but no one is truly present either. Is the replica of your dead father reading you a bedtime story really allowing you to bond with the past, or instead anchoring you to some distorted simulacrum and thus further warping your denial of what life and death truly mean? In such a world, death may no longer be a true end, just another transition. But would that make life itself less meaningful? If no one is truly lost, does the urgency of existence begin to fade? Or do we risk creating a world where the dead outnumber the living, shaping history in ways they were never meant to? The rise of data ghosts is not just a technological phenomenon. It is a fundamental shift in how we perceive identity, memory, and mortality. And whether we embrace or fear this change, one thing is clear: the voices of the past will not be silent.